As a gay man, I'm also a victim of the patriarchy. We all bloody are. Like, it's not a trans woman's fault. That is men's fault. Men are the problem, not Dylan, not trans women.
Men are the problem.
Except trans women are men.
Men are the... Of course, I knew it would come back to us.
That is what the problem is.
Riley?
Are you saying it's not? Are you saying you're not a victim of men? Because what are we talking about?
No, what I'm saying here is what we are suffering from as a nation. Really globally, what we're suffering from.
Have been a victim of men. That is true.
No, she's a victim. She's a victim of gay men.
Here, let me take you back. Let me tell you what I'm a victim of.
Do you know what? Let's just pick on all the minorities.
Dylan Mulvaney is a gay man that's doing this.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we're going to look at a clip from the most recent episode of the Piers Morgan Show, where he had Brandon Tatum on there, Riley Gaines, Esther Kraku, which I'm not too familiar with, and this fellow here, James Barr, whom I only really know about because he's on the Piers Morgan Show often. And this man had a proper meltdown during this episode. The full episode will be linked in the description should you choose to watch the whole thing. It's about 35 minutes long. Let's get into it.
Riley, great to have you on Uncensored. We'll get to the legal action you have against the NCAA in a moment. But first of all, Dylan Mulvaney, my real problem with this is you've got somebody making an absolute ton of cash by, it seems to me, mocking women and womanhood, despite until mid-20s identifying as a man because she was born a biological man.
Well, it doesn't seem to me, as a woman myself, I can tell you that's exactly what Dylan Mulvaney is doing. He's made a killing on mocking women with his stereotypical misogynistic comments, and you hit the nail on the head. This new song, right, reducing women down to picking up medication, being lazy, not being able to get out of bed, shopping and retail therapy, hooking up with men and being sex crazed. Again, as a woman, I have not lived that lifestyle. So that's what this is. It's a mockery of a woman, and let's be real, I think the most ironic part of this is he looks like a man. If you're watching that video, he looked like a man who was wearing a wig with pigtails. He's not fooling anybody.
Brandon, I mean, it's complicated. I have nothing but respect for people who transition, for transgender people. I want them to have the rights to fairness and equality.
I'm sure you wouldn't have stopped Riley from misgendering.
Hang on, I'm going to come to that.
That's clearly not true.
I didn't misgender her.
No, but you would have stopped her from doing that on your program.
Well, okay, we'll come to you in a moment, James. Just wait.
Well, Dylan Mulvaney was a theater actor, like, wasn't he? And I think if you looked at it through that lens as a gay man portraying a woman when he was doing those skits before, you could, you could probably find some humor in there as a caricature of a woman. But women, none that I know, act this way in real life. This is like, again, a caricature of a woman. That's why it's so absurd, because it's something you would see kind of like out of a comedy skit in the 90s, right? Or out of some comedy movie. Like, I'll age myself here. There was a movie called Clueless when I was growing up with Alicia Silverstone. And that's what it was. Like that Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon. No woman really acts that way, and that's why it's kind of funny. But it's not funny in this case when you're actually saying that you are a woman, and this is how you think that women act, because women in the workplace, women that have children, that have families, I've never met one in my life that acts that way. The only people that I've seen act that way are these trans women. And I'll be honest, I live in Asia, there's a big trans community, and even they don't act like this. This is total theater. Let's get back to the video.
But Brandon, there's all these issues, misgendering and so on. What do you make of the wider thing of Dylan Mulvaney, this cultural phenomenon now in America, basically sending up what it means to be a woman?
I think it's absolutely appalling to give credit and credence to a person who's mocking women. Dylan Mulvaney, I don't think is serious whatsoever. You got a gay man who has a lust for fame and fortune, and what does he do? If it's being gay is not working out for you, you become trans, and you try to make a lot of money, which is what Dylan Mulvaney has done. Dylan Mulvaney is not an example of women. He's not even trying to be a woman. He walks around with a 5 o'clock shadow and dresses up in women's clothes and mocks women. He's berating women. I have never in my life seen a woman act like Dylan Mulvaney. Not one person on this panel can show me a woman that's as flamboyant and radical and twitching and twisting and acting like Dylan Mulvaney.
Are you insane? Did you watch the Barbie movie? What are you talking about? What,
You're talking
and who
about a
are you
movie.
to
I'm talking
talk
about people
about
in
who
real
a
life.
woman is? You're
Real
a man.
life.
This is
Well, who are
absolute
you-
nonsense.
who are you to talk about?
I'm not telling anyone who a woman is, but I'm certainly not telling someone who isn't a woman.
I've never seen a woman.
Do you think
act
Dylan
like that.
Mulvaney is
Give me an
doing women a favour with this?
Do you know what? Dylan Mulvaney is speaking to a huge generation of which none of you understand. Like,
What-
you guys are
What?
over...
That is my generation.
Dylan has
I don't know
Sorry,
any
that is my
woman, I've got to say, of
generation.
any age who thinks that anything other than Dylan Mulvaney is taking the piss.
Yeah, listen, Dylan Mulvaney, just like Brandon Tatum said, nobody acts that way. I guarantee you, if you're listening to this and you have a girlfriend, a sister, a wife, an aunt, the only person you probably know that acts this way is either a gay man or a trans person, which I have no problem with, but I do have a problem when you're starting to say that you are a woman invading women's spaces and that, you know, this is how women act. Dylan Mulvaney has made a boatload of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars that he's been paid by brands, and this is a guy who wanted to be an actor. This is a guy who is into theater. His first skits, when you look back, I did a video of him a long time ago. When you go back and look at his TikTok from, you know, the beginning, he was doing like zoo animal skits, and that didn't work. So he changed and did something else, and that didn't work. So he started doing the womanhood thing, and that really took off. So he kept at it. This is somebody who wants fame and attention and money, and yes, most likely has some mental issues, but this is why he's doing it. Dylan Mulvaney. I'm not painting the whole trans community with this brush, but Dylan Mulvaney in this case, 100%, in my opinion, he puts on woman face because, and again, this is my opinion, it's a show for him. This is how he gets attention. Yeah.
Well, so you don't know any woman under the age of, what, 40?
I know lots of women under 40. Yeah.
Right, and you think they all think Dylan is taking the piss?
Yes, they do.
No, that's insane.
The ones
Do you know what
I do.
I will say, you've sat here on your show and you've bashed Madonna and Sam Smith and all of these other icons. So Dylan just
Icons
joins...
to you, they're not to me.
Dylan just
Here's
joins
the thing.
them in the hall of
But the
fame.
central allegation, James, is that what she does, and this, I think this video clip is absolutely indicative. She's making...
It's a pop song. Have you not seen her do a Dua music video?
To be honest with you, I haven't got the energy to get into the misgendering debate, right? I think the whole personal pronoun thing is a lot of crap. But for the benefit of this conversation, let's move past that. I'll call her she, if that's what she wants to be called. But what she is not is a biological woman. Until her mid-20s, she identified as a gay man. And that's the point there that Brandon was making. And for someone who was a gay man to put their hand up and say, I'm now a woman, and by the way, I'm going to make tens of
you're
millions...
misunderstanding what...
Hang on. So make tens of millions of dollars mocking women, which is
the
how many
thing
women
is,
see it.
I think that is mocking
wrong.
women, or Kylie was mocking women, or Madonna was mocking women just because
Kylie
they're
and Madonna are
expressing
women.
their femininity.
They're women.
It's not okay to say that, and you're misunderstanding how difficult it is to discover your identity
I'm sorry,
as a woman.
I don't
You
see
are
Dylan
trans.
Mulvaney struggling at all.
Dylan Mulvaney has documented
Dylan Mulvaney
her struggle.
is reveling in mocking womanhood.
No,
Well,
she
actually,
isn't.
the thing is, I don't think Dylan Mulvaney, I don't take offense to what Dylan Mulvaney is doing because it makes sense. In the current media landscape that we live in, it makes sense for this man, it's a man, to become as flamboyant, effectively caricature of a woman. And I don't take offense to it because I treat Dylan Mulvaney like he is, which is a mentally unwell person.
She is a
he is a mentally unwell person. I don't see him as a woman. He's not a woman. He's a mentally unwell person.
In a case like this, where Dylan Mulvaney's only identified as a woman for what, 2 years?
And this whole community that can't define what a woman is because they can't say what it is without using the word woman. And listen, no grown man, I've said this in like hundreds of videos by now, no grown man, no man at all, nobody with, you know, male chromosomes, male gametes, knows what it's like to feel like a woman. I'll say the same thing about women. No woman knows what it's like to go around and feel like a man. Say these, a trans man, oh, I feel like a man. You do not know what that feels like, especially in the case like Piers Morgan says. Dylan Mulvaney's wanted to appear as a woman for only the last like 2 years. Well, my man's in his 20s. Like, you don't know what a woman is. You'll never be able to give birth. You'll never have your period. You're not feminine. You don't have feminine hormones. Sure, you can inject them, but that doesn't change anything. And I have no problem with this community. I live here in Asia. There's a lot of them. They're everywhere. And we all just get along fine, but the big difference is, and I've mentioned this a few times, is that they're not going around saying that they are women. They're fine being transgender. They call themselves ladyboys. They say, I'm not a woman, I'm a ladyboy, and they're their own thing. It's, you know, it's been a thing here in Thailand forever, but it doesn't change any laws. Nobody's teaching gender ideology in schools. Women are not losing their sports. If they want to compete, they compete with the men. So no one really cares that much. Now, these people, they like to say that we're transphobic. Nobody's transphobic. We're not scared of them. That's what phobic means. But to change laws for the whole population and to accommodate just to accommodate a very, very small percentage is wild. When you change laws, you do it for the majority of people. It's kind of like cafeteria food, right? You feed the masses. You know, if the one kid's got a weird allergy, well, that sucks. You're going to have to bring your lunch buddy. That's where most of us are upset. It's because we're all being affected, and our children are being affected, and laws are being affected in school. They're teaching this in school. Let's get back to it. Okay.
And was a gay man till the mid-20s. I don't think
But
you,
do you realise that Dylan...
James, I don't think you have any right to compel women to say that this is
Do you understand how difficult it is to realise that you're trans, to understand the complexity? Do you understand the complexity of that?
Them?
You have trans
How does this help
You
trans
know
people?
Do you have
that
any
it is
idea
difficult
how
to find
difficult
your
it is
identity and that people
to be a
accidentally
woman?
go down
Riley has a very good
We've
riposte.
discussed this before.
Hang on, Riley.
Doesn't make you right.
You mentioned you have no idea how difficult it is to identify as trans. Let me ask you, do you have any idea how difficult it is to be a woman in today's climate, and then to be entirely mocked by a man merely posing to be a
That's
woman?
how
Do you
you
have
feel,
any
and that is
idea
not true.
how idea?
That is
How do you-
not
how do you-
Dylan's
how do you
intention.
know?
Well,
Dylan
it's
is
not just how I feel. There's
Dylan's
been an
intention is
avalanche.
not to
There has
mock
been an
women. Of
avalanche
course
of
it's
people
not.
on TikTok, on the left and the right, coming out now saying, "Hold on, this
Dylan
is wrong,"
is a
and this isn't the first time that Dylan
beautiful
Mulvaney
human
has
being.
been under fire.
Here's the thing.
His first days of girlhood. He
I'm
came
not
out
gonna have a
after day
conversation with you, keep
365 or whatever
misgendering
day
her.
it was.
You can't compel people to do that.
Yes,
you
I
can't.
can, because
No, you
it's-
can't. You can call
It's
Dylan Mulvaney.
discrimination.
You can call Dylan
It's
Mulvaney
discrimination,
whatever
Piers.
you want.
It's discrimination.
But Riley Gaines, of all
And listen,
people...
Riley, I do sympathise with you,
You know
about
what?
how
No,
difficult
let
it is
me
to be
tell
a
you
Riley
woman.
Gaines has
And
had to
You know
compete
what?
against
Riley, I
biological
want to listen
males.
to how difficult it is to be a woman, because I want to understand that. I know that's tough. As a gay man, I'm also a victim of the patriarchy. We all bloody are.
Okay, my man's with this whole patriarchy BS. Shut the F up. And, you know, telling Riley Gaines, I know what it's like to be a woman. No, you don't, brother. No, you don't. That's the whole thing. This is why this is upsetting everybody. You don't know what it's like to be a woman. Like, neither do I. That's why when I give my point of view, I'll give a point of view as a man. I can speak for men. I can't speak for women. I don't know how women feel, and I never will. He'll never be, as a grown man, like Riley Gaines, a competitive athlete. This man's not an athlete. He'll never be in a position where he'll lose a spot in a sport, something he's worked his whole life for, because another gender came in and decided to compete against him and they were bigger, stronger, faster. That's what women have to deal with. It never happens the other way around. You don't see women going into men's sports because they would get crushed. And if everything was just equal, women would compete with men anyway. We would just all compete against each other. But the reason we don't is for equality. Is so women can have their own spaces. Look at Olympic records. The men's records in every sport will always crush, like absolutely crush the women's Olympic record. High school boys' records, most of the time, crush Olympic records. Let's get back to it.
Look, we don't need to do the
Bloody
identity
awful. I've seen the
politics.
Barbie movie.
Let me tell you something. You mentioned.
What are you talking
I've
about?
read the book. I understand,
You mentioned.
but you're
You mentioned discrimination.
you being a
You
woman.
mentioned discrimination.
Let Riley
Let me
speak.
tell you
Stop
something.
talking over the
Do you
woman.
believe
my
that
point.
it's
No one's
okay?
allowing me to finish a point.
What's your point?
Am I allowed
ahead.
to speak?
Sure.
God, okay, fine, I finished.
What's your point? You haven't got one, have
My
you?
point, no, I
Riley.
have. My point is, Riley, that
Let me say something.
I understand how hard it is
Okay,
to be
go
a woman,
ahead.
and that you fought so hard to be a woman, and I have so much empathy with that, so I can understand why it is so upsetting when, in your view, someone who isn't a woman comes along and says they are, because it undermines all of the history of what women have been through.
Yes.
But that's not a trans woman's fault. That is men's fault. Men are the problem, not Dylan, not trans women.
men are the problem.
Except
No,
trans
lying
women are
about
men.
objective
Men are the- of course,
truth
I knew
is
it
the
would come back
problem.
to us.
That is what the problem is.
Riley?
Are you saying it's not? Are you
Let me
saying
tell
you're
you
not
something.
a victim
You-
of men? Because what are we talking
No,
about?
what
She's
I'm
a
saying
victim
here
of
is what we are
biological
suffering
men
from as a
saying
nation.
they're women.
Really globally, what we're
women
suffering
in a
from.
sample.
forever have been a victim of men. That is truth.
No, she's
right?
a victim. She's a victim of gay men.
Here, let me take
That's
you
what
back.
this-
Let me
that's
tell you
this is
what
about.
So
I'm a
gay men are
victim
victims.
of.
Do you know what? Let's just pick on all the minorities.
Let me-
Let's throw
Dylan
Megan in as
Mulvaney
well.
is
Let's
a
chuck
gay
in
man
Megan.
that's doing this.
You think
So
Megan's
is
a
Lil
minority?
Thomas and all
I am
these other
so
people.
done with this conversation.
Let
Yeah.
me tell you. Let
Isn't
me
it
tell
interesting
you
how
what I am a
James wants
victim
to
of.
control everyone's thought?
No, I don't. I
You
just
wanna
want everyone to have a
hang on,
nice, civilized
hang on. You
conversation.
want to control
Piers.
everyone's speech,
Why
and
is
how
no
they
one-
speak and how they refer to people. They're not allowed to have their opinions.
Yes,
Only
they are.
You want to mansplain
not-
to women what they should be thinking, and at the same time you want to blame the
I'm
patriarchy.
not. I want everyone to be kind to everyone.
Oh, no, you don't.
That's what. Yes, I
Hold
do.
on, stop
What?
right there.
Yes, I
Including
do.
people
It
like
is
me,
not
the
kind.
patriarchy. Want to
It
be
is-
kind to me?
It is not kind to ask a young girl to undress in front of a man. That is not what kindness is. And if that's what you believe your definition of kindness is, you have a totally warped perception. And let me tell you, it's not inclusive to ask a girl like myself what happened to me and my teammates. It's not inclusive to ask us to smile and step aside and allow these men onto our podiums. That is not what inclusion is. That is exclusion. And it's exclusive to the very female athletes or women in general who Title IX in the women's sporting category was passed to protect and to honor and to celebrate and to uphold.
I hope she wins that lawsuit, man. I hope she freaking crushes it. She's a very, very net force for good, Riley Gaines. She does a lot of stuff for women. Runs a great charity, the Riley Gaines Foundation. And of course, like Piers Morgan says, of course, it's men's fault. Like in this case, it actually is men's fault. A very small percentage of very, very, very weak men are responsible for this. A grown-ass man wanting to compete with women. Give me a break. If you can't cut it in your sport, that's fine. That doesn't mean you got to go compete with women. I've competed for over a decade in jiu-jitsu and wrestling, and I do a lot of boxing. I'm by no means world class, but shove me in there with the women, and I'm gonna crush them. That's what we're talking about here. Fairness and equality. And these weak men that go into women's sports, because that's where they get an advantage, or maybe it's some weird fetish, or maybe it's a power thing. I don't know, but I definitely know that it's wrong, and I think people in that community know that it's wrong. I have gay friends where I live, and none of them mess with this. They all actually vote conservative in Canada. They're not down with this, and they speak up about it. But that whole community has to speak up. And like, I'm a white straight man. If I see a white straight man doing something stupid, I'm gonna speak up about it. This is why these group identities are so bad, because they focus so much on their group identity and the group think, and you don't want to be out of the LGBTQIA alphabet mafia group. That's why when in these wacky leftoids, the radical left, when they talk about, the black community and the white community, they try to separate us all by race or by gender, and it just causes us to be more separated, more segregated. It causes more racism, more issue. But that's what they want. This is done by design, because I will tell you, as somebody who's traveled, the last 12 years of my life, I've traveled a lot. A lot of times we did work in countries that, are a little bit more, I guess you would say, poor. We're all the same at the end of the day. We all want our families to have food, protection, shelter. We all enjoy having a meal and some laughs with our families and our friends. Separating everything the way the radical left is doing by groupthink. Oh, you're a member of this group, or you're a member of that group, or you're a white male, you're oppressive and evil, you're a black lesbian woman, oh, you're excellent. It just causes more divide, and it causes people to be resentful, because we no longer judge people based on their merit. We judge them based on their group. It's absolutely ridiculous. Hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. If you did, smash that thumbs up button, consider subscribing to the channel, help it grow, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.